Right, guys, welcome back for episode 12 of the Tackle Room. We've got none other than Drennan Barnsley Blacks captain and England feeder international, Lee Kerry. How are we doing, Lee?
Alex, all right? How are you?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really good. So the main gist of this sort of Q&A podcasting, mate, is obviously all things Barnsley Blacks.
Sounds fantastic.
I feel a lot of anglers around the UK obviously see the results and everything like that. And a lot of the time, I'll say it myself, you're always near the top.
We've had a consistent run, that's for sure. Been
Yeah,
very consistent, mate.
correct. So just a few things that if people don't know, where did the Barnsley Blacks start, Lee?
I think I should know my history of Barnsley Black, shouldn't I? Like inside out. But from what I am aware of, and from what the guys are aware of, effectively Tommy Pickering and Dennis White were going fishing to an event. I don't know. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah,
Somewhere in the Midlands, and an option to have a team, be a part of a team, but you
yeah,
needed four people, and they got another couple of guys whose names escape me at the moment in time, and they needed a team name. They worked down the pit, came from Barnsley
yeah,
Blacks. So that was where it started, and then obviously it developed from there. When you've got anglers such as Tommy and Dennis, who are, obviously quite rightly considered legends of match fishing, they then attracted more people and they had more team events. And obviously, anglers such as Alan Scottorm were very young then, and came and joined in, and Dick Clegg and people like that, and it became a bit of an institution. There's been some unbelievable anglers, and I think I'm right in saying, if I was a betting man, I would say it's. I think it was in the mid 70s, and I think we're coming up to 50 years of Barnsley Black. So
yeah.
it's a long established team that has just gone from strength to strength, really. They've always been consistent. They've always been great performers. And I would say in recent times, we've sort of pushed that on even further. So it's quite a journey for that team. I think if you spoke about fishing to anyone. I mean, we bump into people in the pub and I've been fishing. Have you ever heard of those Barnsley Blacks? Is it something like that? And you
Yeah.
think, flipping heck, that name's carried throughout the years. So it goes a lot further than just me and the lads that are fishing at the moment, really.
Yeah, exactly. And what was your sort of introduction to Barnsley? How did you get involved, Lee, back in the day?
my, my situation was quite interesting. So I used to live in Norwich, and I grew up there fishing for a team based around Tom Bottom's tackle shop, and then explored myself to hot rod, which are now Browning Hot Rods. They're great friends and great lads. And then I went to university in Bradford and effectively started fishing around the north. Now, um, I sort of kind of knew Tommy anyway. I'd been in the England youth team, and Emma had been in the team, so I knew Tommy. And he was like, "What are you doing up here?" sort of thing. And then within 18 months, I'd had a really good 18 months. And at the time, Tony Peel asked me to join, which was 2007. So,
Right.
yeah, maybe even 2006. So, it's a long time now. And that was sort of like, that was when I joined. And when I joined the team, I was significantly younger than everybody else who was fishing.
Yeah.
It had a really established group of people who were in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and it was a great bunch of people that taught me a thing or two about how to be an honorary northerner, as Tommy always called me. So and I've lived in the up north since sort of 2001, 2002 anyway. So, I've sort of taken it in now, and and that developed from there, really.
Yeah. And going from that, obviously, loads of accolades through that time. But obviously, you're now captain, Lee. When
Mm.
did you get handed the captaincy and how did that sort of come around?
Um, I mean, it's one of those. So Tony Peel was captain when I took over, and we had a brief spell where Andy Oldham took over the team. And it didn't work out for Andy, and Glenn Lawrence took over. Now, at that time, we were at a bit of a transition. We just sort of started signing some younger anglers, who, I mean, they've not really gone on to achieve much. People like Matt Godfrey and James Dent, they're just
Yeah.
steady away. But, those people, Joe Kerrys, Andy Geldart, that was a time for those sort of people joining the team. And we all sort of had the same goal, and it brought a new enthusiasm and passion. And Glenn was great for that because, Glenn maybe isn't an Alan Scotthorne in terms of the angling, but he's an excellent angler, and he was considered, and he almost allowed us to sort of all contribute to what we were doing.
Yeah.
He allowed that group to develop how we needed it to develop, and if he needed to say you're getting out of line, he'd tell us we were getting out of line. But I played a big part in the consultation as time went on with Glenn. And then, the job takes its toll. So after 10 years, me and Glenn had a discussion, and effectively it was my turn to take over. And we always put it to the lads. Everybody, it's not a dictatorship at Barnsley.
Yeah.
It's maybe it was in the past. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't there, so maybe some guys, operated in a different way. Maybe people needed that. I don't know. But I and Glenn in particular, we never had that dictatorship. It was always discussion. So, fielded it to everybody if anybody has any problems with me being captain, and they didn't. So, this is the second year now. And, I've always had, I'm a very different character to Glenn in terms of the fact that I want to, I do feel like that leadership style is something that's almost inbuilt in me. I think
Yeah.
Frankie would call me bossy and anal, but, and he'd be right, because I am like that. I need things in a certain way, which was great with Glenn, because Glenn almost would allow me to be a little bit like that, and help us move forward. And we had some great times. We had some really great times. We won the World Club Championships. And I was just, the only thing that I wanted to achieve as a squad was just a slightly different sense of professionalism, and a slightly different sense of togetherness. I wanted to win everything.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody who wanted to fish for Barnsley to want to win everything. I didn't want anything being taken for granted. And I wanted the group to be strong. What you've got to remember is that even as captain, I can't fish every event. I missed the Yorkshire National this year, mainly because I needed some time with my family. Matt Godfrey, James Dent, they might be away with the under-16s. They can't fish every event. Alan Scotland might not be able to fish every event. So we need a strong group of people if you're going to achieve the win. But what happens is, when you've got a strong group, you don't want to. It's hard to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
You imagine, like, obviously a football team, they try to do rotation, but when whoever it might be is on the bench, they're not very happy about it. So that I wanted to try to create something where we said, look, this is the group. Not everybody's going to fish everything, but come along for the ride, and we're gonna back each other and support each other, and try to make that a win. So that's sort of how I sort of took over, and unfortunately, everybody's been buying into that, and it's been very good.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that now, Lee. Obviously, we won't go through every single result that Barnsley's had, but we'll have a look back at, obviously, this year, 2023. First one to start with is obviously the Winter League final, over Decoy and the Drains. What was that like? Obviously, practicing, it's probably one of the only events now that's over two sort of disciplines of match fishing.
Yeah.
So how did you guys figure that out, and where was best to place anglers and everything?
Well, I think um, we're lucky that we've got a strong 10 in both.
Yeah.
So if I needed to mix and match, we could. Now, it's actually we won it the year before, so I have a bit of a rule. I can blame Tommy for this, and I do agree with it. You don't change a winning team,
Yeah.
um, and but you need to keep that team motivated. So, it's the same old thing. Effectively, go to the lads who won last year. Right, this is the team, regardless of who's back. And I'm going to use Frankie. He won't mind. Frankie hasn't fished the Winter League final 3 years.
Yeah.
If you're asking me to name my best 10, Frankie's in it. But he hasn't been. He was away. We won. Well, let's motivate everyone to keep with that winning team and keep the same people. So effectively send the guys off and say, look, if you want to be in the team, you need to go and practice. We set a minimum requirement for practice. If you can't do that, let me know and we'll find somebody who wants to do that. And that's not meant in a horrible way. And none of the lads take it like that. They take it as a motivation to go and do it. And I always say the same. If you don't want to do it, it's no problem. You're still part
Yeah.
of what we're doing. But as long as you communicate that and contribute in the discussions, I have no issues. But obviously, all the lads wanted to retain their place, which is great. And you send them off to do it. So effectively, because it's two different venues, we split it into two. We try not to confuse it.
Yeah.
Different groups. We allow the decoy team to talk. The only person who overlaps is myself. Where I might go, oh, you haven't been, or don't forget this, lads.
Yeah.
And it keeps it clean cut for the information. And we go practicing and we get down there and we go practicing and we try to practice different bits. And, that event's been running there for a long time now. I actually organised the first one there myself. And, I think it's a fantastic place to have that final. I honestly don't see anywhere that can compete with it at that time of year. And so, with it being there, we try to go to different places when we practice. We try to find out, not everyone can go at the same time, which is good. It spreads it out over 3 or 4 weeks, and we share the information. So, yeah, that was how we went. We bet how we went about it. And of course, this year was insanely tight. Got to, say well done to Gordon Lee for tying on points. Who have a team that have had a great year, to be fair themselves.
Yeah.
Tied on points with us. But unfortunately, we got the nod. And like I always say to the guys, we didn't actually have the most amazing draw, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
We had a draw capable of winning because you can't win without one. But it wasn't a gimme. So, you can steal every point, every single ounce, and hopefully end up at the right side of the weights. That's all part of the mentality of what we're doing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and the next one is commercial Stillwater champs. Again, obviously commercial-based sort of competition. I know you guys have won it multiple times, and a lot of your anglers know that fishery very, very well.
Yeah, we do. We do. But the same thing applies. I mean, we were lucky enough in between. I know it's not Angling Trust event, but we fished and won the Census Challenge, and it incorporates a lot of the same guys in that match. But when you come commercial fishing, it's completely different. So there's people like Joe Kerrys coming into the equation, and Nick Speed fished in the competition. Again, people that you're trying to encourage to buy into what we're doing. But the same thing applied. If you can't go, you won't be fishing. I don't care if you're the best commercial angler on the planet. You won't be fishing unless you can go and contribute to what we're doing. Because, like I always say, if 10 people go once, that's 10 lots of information.
Yeah.
If 10 people go twice, you've got 20 lots of information to work on. That's better than me going 6 or 7 times myself.
Yeah.
Just me. You need to go as a unit or don't be involved. So, we do know Lindome and I love Lindome, but my schedule means I only fish there on the commercial national. And the same applies to, I'm going to say 8 out of 10 of the people who fish, 7 out of 10 of the people who fish. So we rely on people who know it, but it's also at a turning point of the year. This year, pellets were good.
Yeah.
The year before, worms were good. The year before, maggots were good. So it's just a case of trying to sort it out and then making the best of what we can. And fish also with that same team mentality. So it's something that we love winning that event, and we have been lucky that that event's been unkind to us in the past. We've had a
Yeah.
disqualification based on sitting on the wrong peg, total accident, when we would have won.
Yeah.
We've lost by a point on a couple of occasions in the past where maybe we took it for granted. So at the moment we're not, and
Yeah.
again we've managed to win that the last couple of years.
And I know Neil Grantham's always out for blood as well with you guys, always trying to get
Yeah,
his
I mean, look,
tips.
every single person in our team gets on with Neil brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I again, that competition wouldn't happen without them. So
Yeah.
fair play to them putting it on. And I think he loves the sense of trying to beat us, but I also think that he loves seeing us succeed if it's going to be another team, because he knows that we all support what he's doing. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
there's some great friendly banter there.
Yeah. The next one, Feeder National. Bit of a weird one because obviously didn't win it this year, but Mick Viles won it individually. So
yeah.
as a team, how would you take that? As in,
Well, I've got absolutely no excuses for the Feeder National. We should have qualified. We should. I'm not saying we could have won, but the top two teams qualified for the World Club Champs. We could have qualified along with 20 other teams. It wasn't good fishing. It was hard. We had torrential rain for 2 days before. It meant that you were fishing for much lower weights than I think everybody anticipated. And we didn't get it quite right. I mean, we were lucky to finish where we did. I had a lucky day, really. I think I was the fourth maybe in my big 20 plus nearly 30 peg section. And Mick had won on, Mick was in a good area and he is world class, so he managed to win. But our plan wasn't right. The way we approached it wasn't right. We should have, and there's no individual to blame for that. There's actually only us. And I don't mind saying that because you can't always win.
yeah.
And it actually gave me, I'm going to say I was actually, I wasn't happy about it, but I'm very philosophical. And I go, do you know what? Isn't it good that we could have won? If I'd have come off the bank and said, oh, we couldn't have won that, we couldn't have won, then that's a little bit deflating. But when you come away and you could have won or you could have done better, I believe that's a good way to build and grow as a group. So yeah, everybody was really disappointed, and I mean really disappointed, because we have had an amazing 2 years and won all the events we've entered in the UK apart from the Feeder National both times. So it was one that we were already had a niggle on. And we will be gunning to qualify next year as much. It comes at a really tricky time because the Feeder World Champs and the World Club Champs are in July. You get back and it's Feeder National. So you haven't spent 3 or 4 weeks fishing on the Gloucester. You've literally just had to go down and take it on best you can. So the rule of practicing was still there, but God, it was hard. It was really tough to get that in. And I felt like I would like to have seen more of the canal than we got an opportunity to. That's how I would look at it. So, but yeah, it was great, and well done to the Gloucester team and Hot Rods qualifying. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Then a week later, obviously, 2 championships in one weekend. We'll talk Division 1 first, probably one of the highest accredited sort of competitions in UK match fishing.
It's the biggest team match in UK fishing. It's as simple as that. Whether it holds a qualification or not, whether it what it does, it is effectively it is the pinnacle of UK team fishing. So for us, I want to win it. I want us to be seen as the best team. And that's not, I'm not getting carried away. Why wouldn't you? Well, I hope every team has that philosophy. I want them to be seen as I want every team to think they want to win the Division One national. We certainly do. And we basically had learned a lot from the Feed National the week before. We had decided that, it was a lot harder. So we changed our approach. And I basically gave the lads, during the week, said, look, listen, we have got to be fish first, not glory first in terms of the size of the fish. If you can catch a 6-ounce perch, in the first 5 minutes, you great, do it rather than try to fish for a £2 bream. And everybody had that mentality, and we had it was low weight. It was a low weight national, and which they often are, by the way, unless it's on the River Trent, they are low weight. Because venues can't really handle it apart from the Trent, or a lot of venues can't. And we had some great scores. We had a fantastic section win from Tom Barlow, and we came back thinking, do you know what? This is a good set of scores, but is it good enough? And Ossett, who we all absolutely get on like a house on fire, great bunch of guys. There should be rivals, and I know when I fished for Ossett 17 years ago, there was almost like not a bitterness, but we were arch enemies. But the people involved in both teams now means that, for me, I don't see that. I think there's a lot of respect there. We think they're a great team. I'm not happy that they lost to us. I'm glad if any team was going to be second, it was them. So it was to beat them by a few points. And Gordon Lee, who I mentioned earlier, who did well. It was brilliant. And I can tell you now, we got people, Mick Viles fished, I think it was about 96 or 98 on the Gloucester and won with Barnsley. And I could see how much that meant to him. And we had people in the team who hadn't won a national medal before. I could see how much it meant to them. And we have people in the team who have got a lot, who are lucky to have got a few. And we even had Alan Scotland come down to help out as well. So, this is the sort of team we're talking about. And everybody was there and everybody was made up. Really, really, really chuffed to come down to the south and win was great. Really great.
And then the Sunday, obviously, first time it's happened, float national, obviously qualification to the World Club Championships.
It's a great,
different one.
Yeah, it's different because it has Bloodworm and Joker and it's float only. So it's basically completely different from the day before, if I'm being totally honest. But obviously you have a mood for the venue, or you feel like you might have a mood for the venue. Slightly different personnel. Alan came in and fished. Smaller team, but like I said, we had success in the Census Challenge last couple of years, and that's meant that we feel that we know how to fish the Gloucester with Bloodworm and Joker. So we said, right, let's take all the things that we already know. You can't practice because there was no Bloodworm and Joker, so practice was impossible. Take all the things that we already know. Took our time. We didn't rush off to our pegs. We talked about what information we had. Like James Dent was couple of pegs to the right of where I've been in the national the day before, for example, and we tried to approach it best we can. And again, we had 5 great performances to win with 11 points, which I think there was 9 teams, so you're talking about 2 points a man almost, which is fantastic. So we were really, that meant a lot to us because we did. And I'm sure you'll touch on it. We didn't have the greatest of successes at the World Club Championships this year.
Yep.
And all of us want to get back there. Ultimately, when, certainly for me, before I was captain, all I cared about was the World Club Championships. Like, it's like the Champions League. That was the goal. I appreciated you couldn't always win everything in the UK. And the UK matches you almost get a free entry into. World Club Champs, you don't. You have to earn the right to go. And then when you're there, it's the desire to be called the best team in the world. So, that for me has been biggest motivation in team fishing for the last 10 years. And so to qualify, you know, on those events like the float and feeder national, it's not so much about winning, it's about qualifying.
Yeah.
Whereas the national is about winning. It's about the trophy, the prize, the glory. The float national was more about getting to the next stage. And I know that sounds a little bit, but that is what it is there for.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like, just to use football, teams think, well, we're not going to beat Man City now, but if we can come third, we're in the Champions League next year. That is how you have to
Yeah.
look at those qualification events. So, you know, yeah, we're delighted, absolutely delighted to be going back.
And obviously, World Clubs this year, 11th overall finish.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I've touched on this on a few things before. We've never finished that low, ever. And I'm actually, you'd think I'd be really depressed about it, but I'm not, because, and I don't think any of the lads are. We practiced really well. There was a great energy there. There was a great concentration there. We got it slightly wrong first day, and if we'd have fished how we fished first day based on what we'd learned in practice, we would have come fourth to sixth, almost certainly. And we'd have gone, oh yeah, hard luck. And I'll tell you now, I'd have felt devastated. Fourth to sixth, I'd have felt devastated. So on the Saturday evening, we developed a bold plan. Bold means likelihood is it won't work, but it was the only way we were going to score sub 10 points. It didn't work. I had to stomach the embarrassment of sitting there not catching a lot. So did Matt Godfrey. So did Frankie Giannicelli. And you're talking about two people that I consider the best float anglers in top 10 float anglers in the world. You know, they are unbelievable float fishing anglers. And they had to sit there like I did and, you know, and suffer. And unfortunately, these things happen, but it's a little bit like being 3-0 down at half time and saying, well, let's consolidate and lose 3-1. Or let's put 6 men up front and we might pull it back, or we might lose 6-0. And that's effectively what we did. I had no regrets, and neither did the team. It's just that maybe next year we can go into day one and the plan might be better and we might be in contention. And I fished, oh God, now you're asking me. I've fished, I think, 6 World Club champs. We've had a fourth. We've had 2 fourths, an 11th, and then we've had a second, a first, and 2 thirds. So I fished 7, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, 7. So when you think about that, that's ridiculous in 30 teams. So I'm not unhappy to come 11th. I'm almost like, yeah, okay, we've learned from that, you know, and this year we'll build on what we can do in the future and try to. It's in Slovenia, and it'll get 100% focus to try and win England another gold medal. You know, so that's my sort of philosophy on how I think we should go about it.
And to be honest with you, everything you've said there, Lee, it explains everything. I feel that people are asking the questions, how are Barnsley so consistent? Every single explanation there you've come across with explains that to everyone. I think in a real basic term that consistency comes through wanting to win.
Absolutely, yeah. The drive and desire to want to be successful. But also, I can't express, Alex, how important it is to be together as your group. And it doesn't always work like that. You've got 20 blokes. You can't always be together. You know, someone might get funny about something, just like you might have an argument with your wife. But ultimately, my job, which isn't as much fishing as, you know, just trying to keep that harmony and lead that group. I see it as a ridiculous privilege to try to do that. So I always go back to the guys and just say, look, back your men. These are your guys. You know,
Yeah.
we don't belittle or we have loads of Mickey taking, but we don't belittle and we don't call them out in the public fair. We keep things in house if there's a problem, which inevitably there will be because it's people. But we make sure that ultimately, when you win, you're looking at every single other person with you, and you can see that you're together as a group and happiness. And I feel like it's never been more like that. So I'm really proud of that, and I think the boys should be too. And I hope that we can continue winning. And I hope that, the guy, people, like very kind words that you said there. There is a lot of people who, um, look at Drennan Barnsley Blacks and see us as a dominant team. But I hope that we try really hard to show that we're working for that. We don't make any apologies for winning, but we're trying really hard not to come across as we don't care about other people, because we do.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't all the other teams putting all the other effort in, the win wouldn't be as great to us as they are. So, that's what we're trying to put across to everybody as well. And I hope that is coming across to the other anglers.
I think definitely, mate. Couple of questions. We'll finish, obviously, the Barnsley chat there, which was brilliant. But a couple of questions for you. The first one is going to be, I'll link it towards Barnsley. What would you give any angler now wanting to get into team fishing? What sort of advice would you give them going forward?
The biggest thing I can tell you about being part of a team is the benefits you get from the other people and how it takes you on. People used to say to me, I can't believe you're telling Matt Godfrey what to do. Well, Matt Godfrey tells me what to do. So by giving Matt Godfrey advice and making him better, he makes me better. I make Frankie better. Frankie makes Matt better. Alan makes me better. So I would say, go out there, join any team who need people. Like, go out there, find the local teams, see the local teams in the Winter League. It's the best place to start, and fish for any team. And as you improve, you will progress through the teams or find your own level. But I guarantee team fishing makes you a better angler. It will make you a better angler for sure.
And the second question and last question. We know Barnsley have won pretty much everything now. Is there any other competition, Angling Trust or FIPSED, that you'd like to win with Barnsley?
All of them.
All of them.
Every single one. And I wouldn't change that for the world. We love the world events. I would love to win the World Feeder Club Championships. We've come second in that. If we won the World Feeder Club Championships and the Feeder National, we'd have won it all. So to get to the Feeder World Club Champs, we've got to win the Feeder National. So that, for me, they're the two. We will do that one day. I have to believe that. And then I will say, apart from that, keep having a best shot at everything we can.
That's it, mate. That's it. So thanks for the chat, Lee. And obviously, thanks everyone for watching yet again. Obviously, we'll get the next episodes up as soon as possible. But thanks, Lee, for the chat now.
Really appreciate it. Cheers.